Exodus chapter 3. We ended in chapter 2 last week. Moses is in the land of Midian. He's married. He's tending sheep, tending flock. So we pick it up in chapter 3. And, part of what we're going to be looking at, and part of the question, well, not part, but the question we're going to be answering is really, what do you do when God calls you? What do you do when God calls you to do something, to a ministry or a work or a task or something you're supposed to do, or calls you to do something you're not supposed to do? What do you do when God calls you? So let's read a little bit. Chapter 3, verse 1. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the far side of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. I think it's important that we note that Jethro, his father-in-law, is the priest of Midian. When we first are introduced to him, he is called the priest of Midian. Almost always when we talk about Jethro, we have with it the priest of Midian. And I think that becomes important because I'm wondering if this point where Moses is, where's Moses' relationship with God? He knows God because he's born into a Hebrew family. And his early years before he was weaned, or while he was weaned at least, he knew all the stories. His parents would have made sure that he knew who he was and knew who God was. And remember, he's not too far removed from the phrase, we always read the phrase, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Well, he's very close to that phrase. Jacob is their last great family patriarch kind of thing, and besides Moses, but Moses doesn't know he's going to be the next great guy. And so Moses is, he knows about Jehovah. He knows about the Egyptian gods. He's been well schooled in the gods of Egypt and the religion of Egypt. And now I'm guessing, he's spent 40 years in Midian. So he's going to be well schooled in the religion of Midian, the Midianites, because his father-in-law is the priest of Midian. So it's not unlike today, right? Our kids grow up in our household, and they know the stories of the Bible. They know who God is. They go to school, and they're told about a different religion, whether it's secularism or socialism these days, or communism, or whatever ism it is. They're exposed to other religions. And then if they move away somewhere, very often they go to college and they're exposed to another religion, right? There's all these religions, there's all these gods, there's all these, and so I wonder if Moses is just kind of put them all together. Okay, they all kind of fit together. I'm covered, whatever. I know about Jehovah, I know about Ra, I know about the Midianite gods, whatever they might have been. He's got all that. And so he takes his flock to the far side of the desert, to Horeb, the mountain of Jehovah, the mountain of God. So there's a contrast right there in the very first verse. He has been living in the land of Midian under the priest of Midian, under the religion of Midian, and now he goes to the mountain of God. He doesn't know it's the mountain of God. We know it's the mountain of God because the narrator tells us this is the mountain of God. You'll see, keep reading as you get into the middle chapters of Exodus, and you'll see they come back, and he goes, oh, I've seen this place. This is where I met God the first time, and this is where God is. There, in verse 2, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses went, holy cow, I've seen a lot of things in this wilderness. I mean, you travel around the wilderness for 40 years, and you're always outside. You see some pretty amazing things, some pretty wild nature, whether they're freaks of nature or not, but he sees them all. And then he looks and he goes, what in the world is that? That I have never seen before. There's a fire. And maybe his first response was, yikes, there's a fire. That's not good for pasture land. That's not good for places that are arid and don't have a lot of moisture. I better get over there and take care of that fire. And maybe he gets a little closer and goes, wait a minute, there's something odd about that fire. It's not spreading. It's not going down. The bush looks intact. It's still green. What in the world? And he goes over to see this strange sight, why the bush doesn't burn up. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from the bush, Moses, Moses. Now that will kind of freak you out a little bit. That would not be an everyday thing, right? Bushes don't normally talk. Well, this bush didn't talk, but it was God talking. But he'd be wondering, where is that voice coming from? And so he says, here I am. Would that have been your response? Would your first response be, yo, here I am? Like, Moses, Moses, yeah, I'm here. Like, was this a calm, here I am, or was this I don't know. What do you think? Put yourself in Moses' shoes. That was well done. I don't know. And maybe he answers this way because he knows the stories of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So maybe to him it's not that wild of a thing for God to speak. Oh yeah, I know this. This must be the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay. So here I am. And God says, don't come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you're standing is holy ground. Then he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. I wonder if this wasn't the first time that Moses really, really encountered who God was. I mean, he knew the stories when he was a kid. Growing up, his parents would have kept telling him the story. Don't forget who you are, Moses. Don't forget who God is, Moses. Goes to Midian, and he's probably got it in the back of his mind. He's not quite sure, but maybe this is the first time. He really experiences who God is. And he gets afraid. He's afraid to look at God. He's like, whoa, this is the God of my father. This is who Amram, my father, was telling me about. It's true, all the stories I heard about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Here he is. I'm talking to him. And then God says to him, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I'm concerned about their suffering. Maybe that's a verse for us sometimes, right? Does God care about me? Does God see my suffering? Does God really know and care and see and talk? And he says, I am concerned about their suffering. He is concerned about your suffering. He does hear your cries. I like that he says, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. It's almost as if Moses had been over and over again saying, God, why aren't you doing anything? Like, God, don't you see this? God, are you gonna do anything? Like, you say you're the God of the universe, but you're not doing anything. Do you know what my parents, my brother and sister have to live with, and all my nation has to live with? Aren't you doing anything? And it's almost as if God is answering that, saying, yeah, indeed, I have seen it. I have. I've heard you. And indeed, I know. And so I've come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of the land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I've seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. Yes. Moses is like, yes. I've heard the story about the promised land. I've heard about the promises to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob, who was named Israel. I heard about those. My mom and dad and family would all talk about and pray about the time when we would go to the promised land. It's been about 450 years since that last promise. But that's in the forefront of their mind. When do we get to the promised land? When do we get there? And so God says, yes, I am doing it. I've seen, and I am going to act. And Moses is like, yes, he's going to act. And then God says, so now go. Wait, what? No, go. I'm sending you, he says in verse 10, to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. I wonder what his excitement level went to. Yeah, cool, or what, me? And Moses says, who am I? Like, whoa, you got the wrong guy. Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? That's kind of ironic, don't you think? I mean, if anybody was set up to do it, it was Moses. If anybody knew who the Hebrew people was, it was Moses. If anybody knew about the oppression of the Hebrew people, it was Moses. As he watched it day in and day out, as he went back to the palace and reclined in his bed and had servants serve him and go every night, oh man, that could be me. And then eventually sometimes going, that should be me. And what am I going to do about it? And maybe I better do something about it. And if anybody knew the Egyptians, it was Moses. I grew up in the palace. I knew the ins and outs. I knew how things worked. I knew the politics. I knew the policies. I knew all of the religion. I knew all of the social norms. I knew, he knew it all. If anybody was most suited to go and talk to Pharaoh, it was certainly Moses. Because he'd grown up in Pharaoh's household. He'd watched people approach Pharaoh. He watched the good and the bad. But yet God says, I'm going to send you. And he says, I'm not going back to Egypt. No. That was 40 years ago. And God, a lot of things change in 40 years. I've changed. They've changed. And I'm not going back to Egypt. Why doesn't he want to go back to Egypt? Hey, he killed the Egyptian. I mean, maybe there's still wanted posters, dead or alive, Moses, you know? I mean, it'd be a hard one, you know, chipping out the broke his nose. Okay. I don't know. But yeah, he killed, he fled from Egypt. I mean, he ran for his life. He doesn't want to go back there, but maybe part of him does want to go back there because his family's there. But God says, you go. And Moses says, no, not me. Verse 12, God says, I will be with you. And this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you've brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. So Moses, you're going to go. No, I don't want to go. Don't worry, I'll be with you. Oh yeah, okay, cool, that's easy. He didn't quite respond that way. And look at the sign God gives him, right? This is the sign that you're the right guy. When you get back here with the whole nation, you'll know you're the right guy. Okay, God, but how do they know I'm the right guy? Like, that's a little ways, and this could not happen. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with this plan, God. First of all, I could get there and someone will say, that's Moses, and arrest him and kill him. Or they could say, who are you? Why would we follow you? You've been 40 years, we don't even know who you are anymore. You weren't with us. You weren't suffering with us. You weren't part of us. You're that privileged guy, right? And so Moses says, so suppose I go there and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they ask, so what's his name? What do I tell them? Because God, I really don't know you that well. I don't know how to represent you. I really don't even know you that much. God says, I am who I am. This is what you were to say to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you. And God also said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord, here's the phrase, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name by which I am to be remembered from generation to generation. Okay, we all know him by that name. That's Jehovah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, so the great I am is going to send me. He's got a couple of names. I am sent me, the God of Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay. So, God says, don't worry, I got it covered. Here's my name. You tell them this. They'll know I sent you. So you go. He says in verse 16, assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, the Lord, here's the phrase, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob appeared to me and said, I have watched over you and have seen what has been done to you in Egypt. And I have promised to bring you up out of your misery in Egypt into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey. There's the other phrase. There's the promise. This is the right God. Okay, he's got the right name and he's got the right promise. Okay, maybe God's saying something here. And God furthermore says, the elders of Israel will listen to you. He doesn't say they might. There's a good chance. There's about 83% chance, plus or minus 2. He says, they will listen to you. Trust me. You go. You tell them these things. Tell them the Lord, the God of Hebrews, has met with us. Verse 18. The elders of Israel will listen to you. Then you and the elders are to go to the king of Egypt and say to him, the Lord, the God of Hebrews, has met with us. Let us take a 3-day journey into the desert to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him. So I will stretch out my hand and strike the Egyptians with all the wonders that I will perform among them. After that, he will let you go. And I will make the Egyptians favorably disposed toward this people, so that when you leave, you will not go empty-handed. Every woman is to ask her neighbor and any woman living in her house for articles of silver, gold, and for clothing, which you will put on your sons and daughters. And so you will plunder the Egyptians. That's a pretty good deal. Moses, I am sending you back to Egypt. You're going to lead the people. You are going to lead the nation. You are going to go with the elders to Pharaoh, and you're going to say, time to let us go, dude. And he's not going to at first. He's going to say, no, no, no. But don't worry, I'm hardening his heart. And after a while, he is going to let you go. And not only that, but you guys are going to get to go with all the gold and silver and clothing you ever wanted. You're going to make up for that 450 years of being slaves. You've always looked at them and their nice, fine clothing and the money they're spending. You're going to get it. That's a pretty good deal. That's a pretty good leadership contract, right? Right? I mean, hey, come to this this organization. We are going to we're going to set you up as the leader. You're going to be the CEO. Your company is going to expand. Your company is going to be great. Your company will have all the gold and silver that you ever wanted. I mean, it's going to be highly successful. And I'm going to be behind you all the way, and I guarantee success. Would you go? Would you sign the contract? Yeah, it's like, yeah, okay. That sounds pretty good to me. After all, I've been in the desert in Midian for 40 years, right? So why not? Let's do it. And so Moses answers in chapter 4, yeah, but God, what if they don't believe me? What if they don't listen to me? Or what if they say the Lord did not appear to you? Like, get out of here. Come on. Who do you think you are telling us the Lord appeared to you? What am I supposed to tell them then? And the Lord said to him, what do you got in your hand? Oh, I've got this staff. It's, my shepherd's staff. I use it to move the sheep in the right place, to chastise them every once in a while, and to beat on those brown furry things that come and eat them. I got a stick. And God says, well, throw it on the ground. Okay. Throws it on the ground, and it becomes a snake. I love this little phrase. It became a snake, and he ran from it. Okay? Moses is 80 years old at this point. Okay? So, Bill Randolph, you've been tending sheep for the last 40 years. You've been in the wilderness. You've seen every wild animal there is to see. You know all about snakes. Nothing scares Bill Randolph. It's like, yeah, bring it on. I got a chainsaw. Right? Here's my stick. Throw it on the ground. Yeah! And he runs. That must have been quite the snake. I mean, that was not your ordinary, garter snake kind of thing. That was probably a very poisonous, some sort of viper. That's just my impression. Because you don't run from a snake when you live in the wilderness. So there was something about that, and maybe it was just the shock of, oh my goodness, my stick turned into a snake. I've been carrying that the whole time? I could have been dead. I don't know. And when he finally stops running, the Lord said to him, reach out your hand and take it by the tail. Oh yeah, right. Okay, easier said than done, God. So he does. He reaches out and takes hold of the snake. I'd like to know how long it took him to get the courage to do that. Like, was it, yeah, okay, cool. Probably not, because he just ran from it. It's probably like, yeah, are you sure about this? Yeah. Put on the big leather glove or whatever. Oh, I got my cloak. I'll wrap it around my arm. I don't know. That's what I would have done anyway, saying, okay, I'm not going to get my hand in this guy. So he reaches out, he takes hold of the snake, and it turns back into a staff in his hand. Now that would be weird, right? You'd be thinking, what in the world am I supposed to do with this stick now? Is it going to change into a snake again? Like, how do I control this thing? Is there a button here? What's the deal? Yeah, right. Right, don't drop it. I love that. That's good. Verse 5, this, said the Lord, is so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, here's the phrase, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has appeared to you. Then the Lord said, put your hand inside your cloak. So Moses put his hand in his cloak, and when he took it out, it was leprous, like snow. So he puts it in his cloak, like, Napoleon or something. Brings it out. He's got leprosy. Leprosy was incurable in those days. Well, it was curable, but they didn't know. Okay, so anybody who had leprosy was going to die. Their digits would fall off, their nose, it would just fall. And often what would happen is because in leprosy you lose nerve endings, and so you wouldn't notice that your hand was actually resting in the fire, and it would just burn off. You wouldn't notice that you've stubbed your toe and it's bleeding and now it's infected and you have gangrene and now you're dead, kind of thing. So it wasn't necessarily the leprosy itself that killed you, and it was, I'm looking at Bill, making sure I'm saying the right things, but it was the effects of leprosy. It was because it puts you in all that danger, and many people just died of gangrene and that sort of thing. And so it's leprous. Now put it back in your cloak. So Moses put his hand back into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored like the rest of his flesh. So it was like, whoa, that was just leprosy. That was just leprous. Now it's good. I kind of wonder if he tried it a few more times. Hey, check this out. How about the right hand? I don't know. He was probably a whole lot more, well, he was fearful, so he's probably a lot more respectful than I'm being right now. So he's got two signs now. Then the Lord said, well, if they don't believe you or pay attention to the first miraculous sign, they may believe the second. But if they do not believe these two signs or listen to you, take some water from the Nile and pour it on the ground. The water you take from the river will become blood on the ground. So he's got three signs. Okay, so if they don't believe the stick, because they think it's a trick, and they don't believe your hand becoming leprous, then take some water and pour it on the ground. They will believe the third one. So here again, Moses has this great deal. You cannot lose. You're guaranteed to lead this nation and win. And so Moses says in verse 10, but God, I've never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you've spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. God, I'm not an eloquent speaker. I can't put words together very well. I mean, I've watched what happens when people who don't speak very well come before Pharaoh. They don't do so well. They get tongue-tied, they get nervous, they say the wrong things. God, that would be me. I can't speak very well. I wonder about that. Because Moses grew up and he would have had training. He would have had schooling, which most people didn't. I wonder if Moses really was that bad of a speaker, or if he just was, I don't want to do it. Right? This is the third time, by the way. This is the third time that he comes up with a, quote unquote, a good reason why he should not listen to God. We only go for one. We go for one and walk away. Moses was 3 times. Nah, you sure? Not me, God. Nah, I think you got the wrong guy. Look, I can't go back to Egypt. I'm a wanted man. That's just not going to work. Well, I can't go because they're not going to believe me. I mean, come on, God. They're not going to believe me. No, I took care of that. Yeah, but God, I can't speak very well, and you really need someone who can speak better than me. I mean, trust me. I've seen this. So, God, take my advice and call someone else. And the Lord said to him, well, wait a minute. Who gave man his mouth? Who makes him deaf or mute? Who gives him sight or makes him blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go. I will help you speak, and I will teach you what to say. Go. Just go already. I'm calling you, so go. Verse 13, but Moses said, oh Lord, please send someone else to do it. 4th time. He didn't make an excuse this time, right? God took care of all of his excuses. And this time he just begs God, please don't make me go. God, don't make me obey you. Don't make me do this. The opposite story, how it ends up anyway, the opposite story is, I think, of Jonah. Right? Jonah didn't argue with God or make excuses. He just ran. He just went away. And really Jonah was saying, please don't make me do this, God. Don't make me obey you and go to Nineveh. Did he end up going to Nineveh? One way or the other, he ended up going to Nineveh. Moses is saying, don't make me do this, God. Don't make me do this. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen when we say, God, don't make me do this? I can't, my health isn't good, or I'm getting older, or I don't have the finances, or I really don't have the interest, or what do you think is going to end up happening? God's going to say, oh, okay. Let's talk. But you're going to end up doing it because I've called you to do it. So in verse 14, the Lord's anger burned against Moses. I don't know how he knew that. Did God's voice become a little more Moses, kind of like the movie kind of thing, or did the fire burn a little brighter, or was there some inflection, or Moses probably just knew that, that wasn't the best thing to do, because I know I was just lying to him. I know I was just trying to put him off. I know when I'm disobeying him, right? We know when we're disobeying God. It's not like, oh, gee, didn't even think about that. Now we know. Jonah knew. Saul knew. We know. And so God's mad at him. His anger burned against Moses. I love that imagery because he's already in a burning bush. So, and he says to him, what about your brother, Aaron the Levite? I know he can speak well. He's already on his way to meet you, in fact. Isn't that interesting? It's almost like God is sovereign and he knew what Moses was going to say, and so he met that already. Last excuse you got ain't going to work, pal. I've already got it planned. I've already called you. So he's on his way to meet you, and his heart will be glad when he sees you. I think that's important because Moses probably wondered for the last 40 years, what does my family think of me? I failed them. I ran away. I couldn't do what I was told I was going to be able to do as a kid. You're in the palace for a reason, Moses. You're going to change things. And it's 40 years. Your brother will be glad to see you, Moses. Relax. They love you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak and teach you what to do. He will speak to the people for you, and it will be as if he were your mouth, and as if you were God to him. But take this staff in your hand so you can perform miraculous signs with it. Again, he says, go. All right, we're good, Moses. I took care of everything for you. You have no more excuses. You can no longer say, but please send someone else because you know I'm sending you, so go. All right, it's like, our kids, we ask them to do something. No, please don't make me do it. No, I really don't want to. Do I have to do it? Yeah, you do. Now go, do it. Right? So God's saying that. Verse 18, Moses went back to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, let me go back to my own people in Egypt to see if any of them are still alive. I wonder if he asked him because he was hoping Jethro would say, no, you can't go. And Jethro says, go. I wish you well. Really? Are you kidding me, Jethro? Why couldn't you say no? Why couldn't you say, no, I'll miss my daughter and my grandchildren so much you can't leave. You just can't. You have to stay. But Jethro says, no, go. Have fun out there. Let me fill your tank with fuel. Go. Take the donkeys. They're the best ones. Have fun. Now the Lord had said to Moses in Midian, go back to Egypt, for all the men who wanted to kill you are dead. We didn't know that before in the story, but somewhere in that story, God told Moses, don't worry about your fear of going back to Egypt. Nobody's going to kill you. You'll be okay. I think he might have done that after Moses' first no. I can't go back to Egypt. Yeah, don't worry about it. They're all dead. Nobody's trying to kill you anymore. So Moses took his wife and sons, put them on a donkey, and started back to Egypt. And he took the staff of God in his hand. That's significant, and we'll see that's significant. You know the story. So again, he takes the staff. The Lord said to Moses, when you return to Egypt, see that you perform before Pharaoh all the wonders I have given to you and the power, given you the power to do. But I will harden his heart so that he will not let his people go. Then say to Pharaoh, or let the people go, this is what the Lord says, Israel is my firstborn, and I told you, let my son go, so he may worship me. But you refused to let him go, so I will kill your firstborn son. It's probably a good thing God didn't tell him that part before he said yes, right? I mean, if you got an excuse not to go, now you know the real message. Now you know how this plays out. I'm going to kill Pharaoh's firstborn son. Oh, my goodness. And I'm going? This is, oh, wow. And here's an interesting, weird kind of thing happening here in verse 24. At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. Okay, wait. We've just gone through this whole narrative of Moses saying no, saying no, saying no, saying no, and God saying yes, go, 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 go. I've got it all taken care of. You're the guy I'm calling. You're the one I'm choosing, so go. And all of a sudden, he's on his way to go, and God meets him there and is about to kill him. Okay, so what's going on? What's the deal there? And it gets weirder. But Zipporah took a flint knife, cut off her son's foreskin, and touched Moses' feet with it. Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me, she said. So the Lord let him alone. At that time she said, bridegroom of blood, referring to circumcision. So Moses is traveling with his family, and he has sons. Okay, because we see the plural sons earlier on when he puts his sons, his wife and his sons on the donkey. Verse 20 in chapter 4. And he's traveling, and it seems like one of his sons is not circumcised. Was circumcision important for the Israelites? Yeah, it was the sign of the covenant. The God of your fathers, the God of Isaac, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It was how you knew you were an Israelite. It's how you knew that your God was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I mean, it's important. And here's Moses, traveling, and somehow neglected to circumcise his son. How do you neglect to do something that's important? How do you neglect to do something that is at the center of your identity? How do you do that? You ignore it. You don't want to do it. Maybe you're trying to run away from who you are. Maybe you don't want, who knows? But whatever it is, Moses neglected to do what he was supposed to do. He did not follow God. And so his wife bails him out. His wife, who is the daughter of the Midianite priest, says, Moses, why didn't you take care of this? So she circumcises her son. And God says, okay, we're good now. You can go on. You can't show up in Egypt. You can't show up to the Israelites and say, yeah, I'm an Israelite too, and not be following me in your life. You can't be a leader and not follow God. Doesn't work. You can't be a disciple of Christ and not follow God. And so they take care of that. The Lord said to Abraham, go into the desert to meet Moses. To Aaron, rather. So he met Moses on the mountain of God and kissed him. Then Moses told Aaron everything the Lord had sent him to say, and also about all the miraculous signs that he commanded him to perform. They have a little family reunion. Moses gives them the game plan. Here's what God told me. And Moses and Aaron brought together all the elders of the Israelites, and Aaron told them everything the Lord had said to Moses. He also performed the signs before the people, and they believed. And when they heard that the Lord was concerned about them and had seen their misery, they bowed down and worshiped him. We'll take the rest of the story next week or the week after. So things seem to have worked out for Moses. After a long struggle of trying to ignore the call of God. How long has our struggle been in ignoring the call of God? Because we all struggle with it. How should we respond to God when he calls us? I think this story tells us that we should respond with obedience and with diligence. I think the reason that God was going to kill Moses because he was not diligent about following God. He was not obedient in following God. How do we respond to God when he calls us? We need to respond with obedience and with diligence. And when Moses finally did, he was the greatest leader, greatest prophet ever in all of Israel. So what's God calling you to do? Where do you hear God calling you? How are you responding? Are you on your second, third, fourth excuse? Respond with obedience and diligence. Let me just close in prayer. God, thank you for your words to us. Thank you that you ensured that all of these stories are in the Bible for our example, to know how we must then live before you. God, I pray that you would help us to respond to you in obedience and diligence. You know how hard it is for us. It doesn't surprise you because you worked with Moses. He was pretty disobedient, pretty unwilling. But yet you still called him. And so God, I pray that even in our unwillingness, you would continue to place your call upon our life, and that you would move us to a point of obedience and diligence. I ask this and I pray it in your name, Jesus. Amen.